Books on Tape presents The Edge of Justice by Clinton Mckinzie, read by Dan Abrams. Chapter 1. A dry wind blows hard out of the Medicine Bow Mountains onto the high plateau of the Laramie River, just as it does every fall in the southeast part of the state. It's a steady pressure, as unrelenting as gravity, but also a force that seems to have a mischievous intent. The wind is regularly fed by the curses of the 50,000 enduring souls who inhabit the high plains and mountains here. On this day, its fuel is further charged by the oaths of people who have never before had the opportunity to feel its power. The multitudes of television reporters gathered outside on the courthouse lawn offer up foul maledictions. The wind is blowing their carefully brushed and stiffened hair out of place. Propelled by it, the occasional tumbleweed playfully interrupts their broadcasts as it bounces between the commentators and the cameras. The few forlorn Klansmen, isolated even amid the crowd across the street, curse the wind, too. It threatens to blow their pointed hoods right off their heads and reveal their true identities. Worse than that, it raises their robes like women's skirts, causing them to drop their placards and hold their arms straight down at their sides. On the drive-in this morning, I'd been struck by just how much the prairie fauna surrounding Laramie is like my maternal grandfather's ranch in Argentina. There's the same sagebrush and chaparral bent by the wind toward the east, as if yearning for the sun to rise each dawn and exposing their backsides' naked roots to the fading night. There are the same surrounding high peaks capped with ice. But the town itself is nothing like my grandfather's nearest village, where idle gauchos squat on crooked, unpaved streets and children play half-dressed in rags. This Wyoming town is even more exotic. Today, Laramie probably appears strange to its longest surviving residents. Over the past week, strangers from across the nation have descended on the town with their cameras and microphones like a buzzing horde of bright-colored locusts. Upon entering Laramie, I drive along past the courthouse with the other rubbernecking traffic and feel something on my face that has become unfamiliar, a smile lifting the corners of my lips. It isn't really a happy smile, it's more of a head-shaking, what the hell, smirk. The thick torso of my Mastiff mix leans far out the backseat passenger side window of the ancient Land Cruiser, and he seems to be grinning too. The crowd that's gathered on the sidewalk leans away from the approaching dog's head with his great yellow teeth and ropes of saliva that hang from black lips. I'm lucky to find a parking spot 5 blocks from the courthouse, despite the extraordinary traffic. There I roll up the windows just enough so the beast can't reach out and cause heart attacks by licking passers-by. I dust the animal's dark hair from the white shirt and khaki pants that I wear for this occasion, instead of my usual tired jeans, sandals, and untucked flannel shirts. Before walking away from the truck, I pull on a navy sport coat to hide the gun that's clipped to the belt at the back of my pants. I speak softly to the dog as I cinch the tie close around my throat. Stay, Oso. Watch the car. I have never seen anything like the crowd that's swarming on the well-watered lawn outside Albany County's 4-story sandstone courthouse. As I wind my way through the masses toward the low steps, I can't stop looking about and feeling that same sardonic turn of my lips. It seems that all the world is here in this small, usually quiet Wyoming town of only 26,000 full-time residents. I have spent time in Laramie twice before, first as a child, more than 2 decades ago, when my father was assigned to the nearby Air Force Base, and again as a cop, just 2 years ago, when I performed a brief investigation here. In both my recent and distant memories, the town was as colorful as any university town, but generally peaceful, nothing at all like the scene that affronts me today. From around the country, there are civil rights demonstrators, victims' groups representatives, the NAACP, print reporters, television journalists, ACLU protesters, church groups, titillated tourists, and members of the Ku Klux Klan and various other absurd militias. All are talking or shouting excitedly. I can see that someone has somehow partitioned them as uniformed deputies allow some on the court side of the street and keep others across from it. Grand Avenue, which lies in between, is lined with double-parked media vans with dish-shaped antennas that extend from their roofs. They have all come for the excitement that can only be born of a true media sensation, the trial of Kimberly Lee's killers. 2 years ago, the murderers of Matthew Shepard were spared the death penalty here in a trial that was broadcast around the globe. Just a year after the pair was sentenced to life in prison for the beating death of the gay university student, while the nation was still focused on the town and the horrors its youth could commit, a new bias-inspired murder swept the headlines like a whirlwind. Another minority student, this one Asian, was raped and strangled, and then further denigrated by racist words written in her own blood. The Shepard killing had seemed an anomaly, but the Lee murder had the national press wondering if something more sinister lurked behind the facade of the state's only liberal college town. The focus on Laramie couldn't be more intense if it were viewed from one of the University of Wyoming's high-powered microscopes. Everyone is here, I guess, but the citizens of Laramie. I imagine them at home, hiding with their curtains drawn and their shotguns loaded, praying for the wind to blow this circus away across the plains. A disorderly mob of spectators is queued from the courthouse doors at the top of the steps down onto the sidewalk and around the corner. Each one holds a slip of paper that I assume gives him or her a seating pass for the big event. More people gather around those lucky enough to have a place in the line, arguing and pleading for a spot. Amid the crowd, at the top of the steps, stands one of the largest men I've ever seen, even in a state like Wyoming that breeds big men. His shaved ebony head rises well above the throng. Those near give him space in deference to both his size and the brown county sheriff's uniform he wears. With his face tilted slightly to one side as he speaks into the radio mounted on his broad shoulder, he watches my approach. I jostle my way up the steps toward the deputy, pardoning and excusing myself among the turmoil, with one arm extended to guide my way through. The bodies before me give way grudgingly, moving aside only after giving my face a second look. With my courtroom clothes, all-American features, and longish hair, I could be just another pushy reporter cutting in line, or a young attorney or staff member of one of the parties. But my skin is a little too prematurely weathered, and there's the jagged white scar that runs from left eye to upper lip on my otherwise tan skin. They turn aside while speculating as to just what role I perform in this extravaganza. "Special Agent Antonio Burns," the big man says when I'm near, enunciating each syllable of my title and name. "Or should I just call you Quick Draw? What are you doing here, man? You're just in time. Closing arguments start in 15 minutes. I really hate being called that, Jones. If I see the columnist who made that up, I'm going to punch him in the nose. He chuckles, not realizing I'm serious, and I pump the sweaty hand that swallows my own. Can you get me inside? I'm supposed to meet my boss, Ross McGee, in there. The giant nods and then uses his bulk to part the crowd toward the courthouse doors. I'm pulled along in his wake. He beats his fist on the glass to draw the attention of the security officers within. When the door is cracked open by one, Jones barks, "Let him in, he's DCI." Then he grabs my arm and pushes me through. I slip inside the building, away from the impassioned crowd, and into the quiet of the cleared hallway, where there are only a few overwhelmed security guards standing anxiously by the metal detectors. I realize that these rent-a-cops probably don't know what DCI means. Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation, I explain to the nearest one, and flash my gold shield as the detector registers my gun and shrieks in alarm. "The courtroom's that way, sir," the guard says, pointing down the hall. I thank him and follow the point. Inside the courtroom, the bench and jury box are empty, but the front of the courtroom is bustling with activity. Where the single defense table should be, there are two, one for each of the Knapp brothers' legal teams. The prosecution has only one table, which is next to the jury box. Because the county attorney represents all the people of the state and the jurors too, he is allowed to sit closest to their box, and you don't want the defendants sitting anywhere near the men and women who will be judging them. The courtroom itself is a surprisingly small venue for a case that has people across the nation eagerly scanning headlines and watching even.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?